the worst hand in Hold'em 7-2.
And you have 7
What about
It's a game that's very popular in live cash games. It really adds action to the game by making it really correct. Just try to win the pot every time you're dealt the worst possible hand.
Now, say I raise 3k, you raise me, and then I fold and you show 7 deuce, that's 10k.
Okay, so it only doesn't count if it's...
Yeah, but if I
fold and I'm in the big
yeah,
blind.
like, exactly.
Okay.
All right, done.
Oh man, it's such a fun sweat though if you fold.
No.
Then I get to look down and be like, come on, one time.
No, I can't.
Players are going to be due for a break, and I'll be ducking out to check in with Neil and Roland.
Well, the 7 deuce is going to come into play tonight. I've seen you play the 7 deuce before.
It's an interesting game that adds to the dynamic of people might be bluffing, so people are more likely to call. I haven't really played it much in a heads-up game. I've played it in a ring game, and you do see big pots created and a lot more calls down because no one wants to see someone get through with the 7 deuce. But in a heads-up dynamic where a lot of pots are uncontested, that could change the way that people defend the blinds, and that might work in Durr's favour to get Sammy playing out of position, which is something he really shouldn't do.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, heads up, no limit hold'em. Most times, no one's really got anything. You know, you're not really going to get ace king or 2 queens too often. So a lot of the time, people are raising with 9-3, and the other guy calls with 10-8 and stuff like that. So you don't really need to do this thing that's going to make people bluff more often, because basically, whenever you've got the button, you're going to bluff most of the time anyway. But the 7 deuce can really get the action going, and Sammy loves it. Actually, it's a thing that kind of distracts him, and that's probably why Durr's suggested it, because anything you can do, Durr can think about 20 things at the same time. He's probably thinking about where he's going next week, his travel plans, what his girlfriend's up to while he's playing. Sammy's like, as soon as you mention something to Sammy, his brain leaps off in all directions and he can't concentrate on playing cards anymore. So it'd be interesting to see whether he loses focus from what he's really here to do, which is to win all of that money off of Durr.
Because, I mean, to really affect the strategy, how much would that 7 deuce have to be worth in this game? More than 10k, certainly.
Yeah, I think more than 10 big blinds, maybe 30 big blinds or something like that. I think because it won't come up that often, and that would be a large enough amount. But just for 5 or 10k, people are just gonna pay it and let it go. I mean, you could see someone get involved in a big pot with it, but you know the chances of it happening are rare.
It's still just deuce 7.
There is still plenty more action to come. Sammy NE2 is put under pressure as these two friends battle it out for $1 million.
I don't know if I'm talking crap or not.
I don't play this hand even when I feel it.
When we get up and say goodbye, then it's bad news.
The Full Tilt Poker Durr $1 Million Challenge continues after the break. Welcome back to where Isaac Haxton and myself watching the Full Tilt Poker Durr $1 Million Challenge. 7 deuce game now on for 10k. Roland and Neil don't think it's going to affect things.
Well, I think it's going to encourage both sides to make sure they try to win the pot when they get dealt 7 deuce. But from sort of a defensive standpoint, I don't think either player should really be doing anything too differently to counteract it. You just don't get dealt 7 deuce often enough for it to matter that much in a heads-up game.
Check.
And this a 3-bet from Durr, and now checking the flop. Checking to call?
Probably not. It's such a coordinated board. There's so many bad cards for him. I don't know what his plan would be if he were to call here.
He's having a good think about it.
Yeah.
Is check raise a line that you could take here ever?
You could, if for some reason you really thought that Sammy was specifically going to bet and then fold with a hand like the one he has, bottom pair or second pair. There just aren't that many hands that are ahead of ace-jack that are going to fold to further action on this board. But there he goes. I wonder if he somehow has the impression that Sammy has the hand he has and is going to fold it. Or if he thinks that maybe Sammy will call once with a queen, but will not go all the way to showdown if he's playing to run a really big bluff here.
Can I have a count, please?
And I mean, for Durr to take this line,
125.
is his information
125 after the 40, so the
the
total
bet
is what?
size? Sammy bet about 3/4 the pot.
What, over there?
That could be it.
No, that's not included.
Sammy has tended to bet
Plus
really
that,
big
it's
over
124.
the size of the pot when he has a very strong hand. So Tom may have the impression that he's very likely to have bottom or middle pair here.
124 on top, so it's
What?
172.
Well, he's asked Durr for a count. I mean, it's a lot of money here.
Yeah, there's a 124 behind, which means that if Sammy were to call here, Durr would have just over the size of the pot left to play on the turn, which is a perfect amount to shove if he happens to turn something like a 9 or a 10 to give him a gut shot. 10 actually gives him a double gut shot.
I mean, obviously, if the cards are face up, Sammy shoves, but it's either a very rash play or ridiculously strong, right?
Yeah, he has shown some stubbornness when the pots have gotten big. He did make that huge call against Tom's overbet to start things off.
He's obviously suspicious, and is it because this is
obviously nervous too? You can tell he doesn't have a set. He's pulled off his sunglasses and he's chewing on them. He's almost... He can't call now because Tom will know exactly what he has. If he wants to continue, he's just going to have to end the pot.
Let's see.
He's definitely hurt himself by looking so obviously distressed.
A quarter of that. Which means either up and down or you've got Queen Jack.
And it looks like Tom has gotten away with his first big bluff of the match, and he's going to show just the jack.
Yep.
Poker sensation Tom Dwan has had an incredible career so far. The 23-year-old began with only $50 in his online poker account.
I grew up in Edison, New Jersey for the first 18 years of my life. It's a town in north central Jersey, about 45 minutes to an hour from the city. When I was younger, I was pretty into sports, mainly basketball. And I also was always fairly into card games. I played pinochle and spades and hearts with my parents a bit. And I had also played, you know, little random poker games like Deuces Wild kind of things with my family as a kid. Halfway through my senior year of high school, I think I saw World Poker Tour on TV, and then the next night, or maybe that night, played a $5 little sit-and-go tournament with one of my friends, Sam Pinella, my parents, and my aunt and uncle, and enjoyed it, and then watched poker on TV a little more in the following days. There was a day where we were going to go either to a movie or something like that, or I don't remember exactly what the plans were, but it got canceled because I think it was snowing out or something along those lines, and we wanted to find something to do. So we went and found a Play Money sit-and-go thing on, I think it was Empire Poker back in the day. And we'd try to register so we could all get in the same one, and then we'd just play those. And we did that for a few days intermittently, and then I convinced my parents to throw $50 online on my Paradise Poker account, and never looked back.
Tom grabbing a few chips back. Sammy's still in the lead. And you're talking before about showing those different lines early in a match. And it is Durr who's showing more different sorts of lines so far, isn't it?
Absolutely. You definitely get the sense that he's probing Sammy for weaknesses, trying to find a game plan here. He seems to like three-betting him a lot, and he's coming up with different ways to try to win those pots once he has. He's betting out a lot. Sometimes he's check-raising, throwing in a check fold every once in a while.
And this, a hand that I believe Sammy has usually been sort of three-betting with, the ace on the big blind.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did.
Well, it's important to mix in some calls with an ace so that when you do call and a board comes like this, your opponent can't just automatically win because he knows you never have top.
Go and show me.
Usually, no.
Okay.
With the 9 of clubs, too.
And that hand, Durr managed and got away with losing absolutely nothing. Kind of frustrates Sammy a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.